even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And after 22 years, Raymond Mark
The sickest NHL podcast. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here in the Sick Podcast Network. He is Pierre McGuire. I am Jimmy Murphy. Pierre, how are you today, my friend?
Very busy. There's a guy that got hired in Anaheim today. And so I was in the middle of my workout and I got a text message. And usually I don't look at my phone when I'm working out, as you know.
Yeah.
And
Except
it was.
You do sometimes, which I'm very honored.
Yeah, sometimes I do. And it said it was from CBS Sports. So I read it. I'm like, okay, I get it. Yeah, I can be there. I can get it done. So we were on like 20 minutes after they texted me. I just said I got a shower and shave and boom, we're doing it.
There you go.
So, but yeah, so it's been a busy day. And obviously I know people on the Eye Test that follow us know how much we care about Joel and what he's done. And there were issues in Chicago. And he went and did his chores and he found out what he did right and he found out what he did wrong. And so he's put the work in, and I hope there aren't people out there slamming him. You know, Jimmy, you're my social media person. You know, it's unfortunate.
Yep.
Because there were a lot of mistakes made there. He wasn't the only person making mistakes.
Yeah.
But Anaheim got a heck of a coach. And if you think about it, when he went to Anaheim in the 08-09 season, or when he went to Chicago, in the 08-09 season, look at the roster. And then when they won the Cup in 10, and now look, I'm not saying it's going to happen like Chicago, but the roster of Anaheim and the roster of Chicago are pretty similar.
Well, he's walking into a roster with a very good young two-way center that I know his predecessor, Greg Cronin, really loved, and that's Leo Carlson. And I think he's going to be a big part of whatever Coach Q starts to put on the ice there in terms of systems and everything. He's going to be a major part of that, Pierre.
Carlson, Zegras, Cutter Gauthier, Mason McTavish, Troy Terry. I'm not talking about any of the other guys right now. Those are just like, think about that for a second. And then look on defense, Owen Zellweger, Jackson Lacombe, Pavel Michikov, and Ian Moore.
Yep.
Ian Moore, second-round pick out of Harvard. Now he's turned pro. He played a little bit in the NHL, played a lot in the American League. They didn't make the playoffs in San Diego. But so look at that defense. And I'm looking at the Chicago. I was thinking about it. Like Nick Leddy was part of that. Brent Seabrook was part of that. Duncan Keith was part of that. Johnny Oduya was part of that. You look at the defense that he had, and I'm seeing these names here, and I'm going, there's some similarities there.
Yep. It's going to be interesting to see how that roster shapes up as they go on. And as far as, he's getting tons of criticism, as are the Ducks, Pierre. But, one thing else.
Who is it? Mostly people on the
mostly
line?
fans, just fans.
Okay.
I don't see media saying anything right now.
Here's what I'll tell you. For about the last 2 weeks, and my partner broke this story, by the way. I know other people are getting credit for it, but my partner broke the story. So about 2 weeks ago, I'm going to say you probably started talking about this. They did intense, in-depth evaluation on Joel.
Yes.
And they did it with Kyle Beach, who was involved on the Chicago side of things. They did it with the attorneys. The Samueli family is beyond reproach. They are an elite family that cares socially about so many causes in Orange County, in Anaheim, and in Southern California in particular. They have been amazing stewards of the Anaheim Ducks. Amazing stewards. They have. And again, because I don't want people to, oh yeah, you're probably on the payroll. I'm not. They asked me to do something, just so everybody knows. They asked me to do something probably around 12 years ago. Open up a museum of science of hockey, it was called. I went out there. I didn't ask for a dime. I didn't get a dime. I did it because they had been so good. I talked to so many players there. They'd been so good for so long, to the players that had been there, to the young programs that they were starting to build. And I was fascinated by a museum, the science of hockey. I was fascinated. So I went out there and did it. I did the opening of it. And I can tell you right now, they're an amazing family.
Yeah.
The Samuelis. So do you think they would hire somebody that was just down in the dirt bad? Not a chance. No way.
No,
way.
Pierre. And you got to understand, they knew that the aforementioned criticism that they're receiving right now from some fans, they knew that would be coming. So they're not going to put themselves in a position where somebody could dig something up and be like, well, how did you miss this? Or how could you hire him and you didn't see this when you did all your research? They're going to know. I imagine, Pierre, and you would know better because you know them better. No stone was left unturned.
No, I guarantee. When Pat Verbeek, first of all,
you want to set yourself up for
first of all, it took a lot of courage for Pat Verbeek to probably go to ownership and say, look, I've interviewed X, I've interviewed Y, I've interviewed W, I've interviewed all these different people, and I still come up with Joel Quenneville as being the best guy for the job right now.
Yeah. And
so they said, okay. And I'm sure they went right to work and they said, you got to give us some time here. We're not just going to rubber stamp this, but boom.
Right.
And so when you reported something about 2 weeks ago,
yep,
I'm sure you were spot on,
mm-hmm.
but it took that long to get to this point where they are today.
They had to back check and they had to make sure they
did
all the X and O's and
yeah.
And, I'll just say for people out there too, and like I'll just say personally, I can't sit here. I'm going based on what the information I have, and the information that I have, both publicly and talking to people behind the scenes, is Q did his job. He did what he had to do to atone for whatever mistakes he made and learn and become a better person. And I've made plenty of mistakes, Pierre, in my life. I've had a zillion chances, and I still get them here and there. And so I would be the biggest hypocrite in the world if I was to sit here and criticize and say he doesn't deserve another chance. I can't say that, and I think a lot of us, if we really look in the mirror, 99% of us, we're far from perfect, and we've all made mistakes, and it's what you do with those mistakes going forward that really counts. Yeah. And by all accounts, he's really done what he had to do to atone for it. So good on them. The only thing I'll say is I'm unhappy that our friend Greg Cronin, it was at his expense and that he lost his job.
Whether Joel got the job or not, Greg was going to lose his job.
Exactly. And Greg did a wonderful job there. Yeah. And I think I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know. You've been hired as a coach, Pierre. I don't know if coaches do this, but I would, if I was hired as a coach, I'd call my predecessor and be like, give me the lowdown here. I want to learn about this. What's it like? And I'm sure a good coach is going to do that. And he's going to learn that Greg had a lot of good things that he put in place that now Joel can take it to the next level.
So the very best people do that. Mm-hmm. The people that aren't very good are afraid to do that.
Yeah.
This is what we're running into in the league today. We got a lot of people afraid. They're their turf.
Yep.
They don't want to hear from the very best people because they're worried the very best people might take their jobs. But the truth of the matter is most of those people are really secure in their own skin. I'm talking about the people that are pretty good at their jobs. And Craig Patrick was exhibit A, man. I'm telling you. Oh, wow. He could have said, no, I'm going to just stay status quo. I'm going to collect the big checks and it's all going to be good. He said, nope, bring in Bob Johnson, Scotty Bowman, and they can hire their own people. And they brought in, Barry Smith and Pierre McGuire. Like, I saw that. What a life lesson that was. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Had it gone against everything I'd ever heard about in the league where everybody was really guarded and territorial. And then I see that. And then I start going to other organizations as a worker. And, I left Pittsburgh. It's I'm going to say this. Probably the only mistake that I say, darn, I wish I hadn't done that. Mm-hmm. And it's not because of Hartford. It's because of the situation that was in Hartford at the time. It was a too big of a rebuild and not enough patience for how long is it going to take.
And there was a lot of off-ice stuff working against you there, Pierre. I mean,
yeah.
They're economically in that city where it was going. It was
but you know what? Like that's the biggest thing. But I'm just saying, I'm using me as an example. In this one.
Yeah.
But I'm happy for Joel. I know you are. We talked about it. I'm thrilled for the fans in Anaheim, and I'm really happy for those players.
Yep.
Those players are going to all get better. All of them are going to get better.
Yeah. Pierre, dare I say in 3 to 4 years, if each organization continues to make the right choices, we're going to have that California triangle working again where, those road teams that went into that road trip there when you're playing San Jose, LA, and Anaheim, that was a dreaded trip for a long time. I mean, if you came out of that 1-1-1, you were pretty happy.
Used to be where you go. It used to be the Bermuda Triangle was Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton.
Yep.
That was the Bermuda.
Right.
That was mayhem on ice, man. They were all really good.
Yep.
This is before your time in the league, but I'm telling you, it was freaking hard to go out there and play all three. And goalie, you had Dougie Riseborough and Dave King in Calgary. You had Pat Quinn and Ricky Lee in Vancouver. Where the murderers row of players, tough. They were tough teams too. They played in Pacific Coliseum. Then you had Glenn Sather and Johnny Muckler in Edmonton. I mean, geez Louise, Jimmy, that was hard.
Yeah.
That was really hard. Here's one I wanted to throw at you. Tell me what you think, because I don't want to make an opinion on it. I have a thought, but I want to hear what you have to say. If you're Seattle, you're looking for a coach. If you're Vancouver, you're looking for a coach. Potentially LA, looking for a coach.
Mm-hmm.
Three teams in that division are potentially, well, two of them for sure, Seattle and Vancouver, are looking for coaches. And we don't know what's happening in LA because they just fired their GM.
Right.
So you can have three teams looking for a coach, and guess what they're saying? Holy cannoli, we got to go against Quenneville?
Yeah. They just got
Quenneville?
Cup champion, yeah.
Like, who else? Edmonton doesn't have a Stanley Cup champion on their staff.
Nope.
Calgary doesn't have a Stanley Cup champion on their staff.
I mean, as an assistant, Edmonton does, Pierre.
No, but I mean, as a head coach. Coach. No, I won the cup with Paul. Relax. Okay, I should have qualified that.
That's okay. I just didn't want the fans coming at you there. That's all.
No. That's as a head coach. Thank you. Good catch. Yeah. San Jose doesn't have a coach that's been in the playoffs.
No.
So wait a second. They're getting Joel Quenneville? Oh, yeah. That stinks.
Yeah, I know. A lot of change going on. A lot of change.
So you have a two-time Stanley Cup champ, Sullivan, going to Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
You got a three-time head coach and one-time assistant coach, Quenneville, 4 cups, 1 in Colorado as an assistant, 3 in Chicago as a head. He's going to Anaheim.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody else is going to be like a lunch bag letdown. Who else has that kind of pedigree?
I know.
Bowman's not coming back.
Nope. Though he could probably do it if he wanted.
He could, 100%. He could.
Yeah.
I haven't heard any, I've been following all day because I told you, I went and did the CBS stuff.
Right.
So I was, okay, I'm doing that. I'm finished now. I'm going to track it down.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't heard one person even bring that up.
I know. Yeah.
Do we have insiders, real insiders, or do we just have people that get leaked information and then they put it out there?
Yeah.
Is that where we are now?
I'll tell you one thing, Pierre. Our good friend Rick Dhaliwal from Vancouver.
He's on top of stuff.
He's so on top of it, and he's the only one. He was the only one to find out. There was a common belief, publicly and behind the scenes, that Rick Tocchet wanted to go east, that he would not stay in the West, that he wanted to go back east. And Rick Dhaliwal yesterday goes, hold up a second. And he confirmed that he met with the Seattle Kraken. So now, you're talking about all these.
Listen, wasn't that on the eye test?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Okay,
you're talking about these heavy hitters coming in the Pacific. Can you imagine if he stays in the Pacific and Seattle gets him there?
So,
I mean,
people don't. Yeah. So, Jimmy, again, do the math, not you.
Yep.
This is for the insiders. We'll help out. Jason Botterill was assistant GM in Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Rick Tocchet was assistant coach there when they won the cup.
Exactly.
Okay. Ron Francis played on the second line in Pittsburgh most of the time with Joey Mullen, Jaromir Jagr. Rick Tocchet played with Mario Lemieux and Kevin Stevens. Same team. Okay. Exactly. They won the cup together. Just thought I'd bring that up. I don't know. Yep. I know it's old. I mean, we're all old. Old stuff doesn't count anymore.
Yeah.
If you're over 50, you can't coach in the league anymore.
I don't think that's right. Because as you say, it never hurts to go out and pick the brains of people that have been there and done it and lived in your shoes. I don't get why so many guys, I'd say a little below my age and then younger, aren't willing to do that, Pierre. I do it. I'm lucky, obviously, to have you to bounce ideas off and everything. But I've done it throughout my career because that's how you get better.
That's the only way
That's
you
how
get better. I'm so great. Every day with Scott, every day.
Yep.
Like I learned something new every day. I wish Badger was still alive. You'd be floored by Badger. Badger was just amazing. Craig, when we go to Mario's camp, this was an amazing. So, I know we got Chris Botta. We'll get to Chris in a second. But and Chris will appreciate this. So whenever I go to Mario's fantasy camp, they're always spread out in different locations, but all the big games are at the big rink. So this year we were at a really nice rink in an old armory in Pittsburgh. And the guys wanted to stay and have fun. After they played their games, they all drink their beers, which is part of fantasy camp.
Yep.
I had to get back to do a media thing back at the big rink. So I said to the people on the boots on the ground, people at the rink at the armory, I said, is there a way I can get an Uber or a taxi? Like, just tell me, whatever, I'll pay for it. It doesn't matter. No, we have a bus. We have a bus for you and Brian Trotche, and Craig. So the three of us got on this limo bus. It was, it's like a school bus, but it's nice. So the three of us got on. We were talking about our Stanley Cup teams. And every time Craig said something, Trotz and I would look at each other going, that was really cool.
Yeah.
That was really, that made a difference.
Yep. It does.
Craig's had an amazing, he's in the Hockey Hall of Fame. He's had an amazing career. The 1980 Olympics, think about it for a second.
Yep.
I know Herb Brooks gets all the credit, and he should, but Craig was the brains for a lot of this stuff. And you're sitting in a small bus with him and Brian Trotche, and you're listening, and you're like, wow, I learned a lot there.
Wow. I know one man that would like that conversation as well, and we're going to bring him in right now. He's our New York Islanders insider, Chris Botta, joining us here on the eye test. And this may be the next team that makes some.
He's like a Notre Dame insider. That's why Anders Lee gets all the free pub on Long Island.
I was just going to ask, are you a Notre Dame alum?
No, his son. Oh, his son's a Notre Damer.
My son's all graduated.
His son's a Golden Domer.
God bless him.
Yes, and then we got to see the great Jeff Jackson in his final years. Former Islanders assistant coach Jeff Jackson.
Yes.
In his journey in coaching, he did 2 years as an assistant on course. So nice to say hello. I am not an insider because I heard what you guys were saying. but genuinely, I am, as most readers could tell you, I am not an insider. I'm a guy doing his thing for this season. And we'll see where this executive search leads. But in the end, I can tell you right now for this air, I'll say on the record with no shame that when the Islanders do announce their president of hockey operations, GM, Arthur Staple or Stefan Rosner or Darren Drager or Elliot Friedman or Pierre LeBrun will have it first. I doubt very much I will.
Well, hey, you have been on top of it, though, and I've enjoyed reading your analysis of what's going on there. And if you recall, when you were last on with us, Chris, you urged the ownership to connect with the fans and write a direct letter. This is our vision. This is where we want to go with these hirings, and this is what we're trying to do. They are yet to do that to this point. Why do you think that is?
Listen, I think that they should have, especially right after the Lou news. Lou is still in the directory. Lou is still there tying up loose ends. So perhaps they will do that when they make the official transition from Lou to the new people. Do I think that they could have just said something along the lines of, maybe even reiterating what Lou did for the franchise, as everybody knows, even his biggest critics know what he did for the franchise. Miracle work, really. And talk a little bit about what they'd like in the new person. I know you have to be a little careful there, right, when you say what you want in a new person, because maybe the person you wind up hiring doesn't exactly check all those boxes. Mm-hmm. So I get it. They haven't. I have a feeling they will, though, at some point in the next few weeks.
Hey, Chris, I'm just looking. I talked to Jimmy about this. You look in the Pacific in particular. Seattle's looking for a coach. Vancouver's looking for a coach. Anaheim just got a coach. LA might be looking for a coach. Where's Patrick Waugh and all this stuff?
So that's a good question. I would think that if any of those teams happen to be interested, and I'm not saying that you're implying that, right? But if there is another job for Patrick to have and teams would want to talk to him, I would think that the Islanders owners would let him have those conversations, would give it their blessing, because right now they don't know Patrick's future, because that is going to hinge on the new leadership group. So if a team, wanted to make a change, if Luke Robitaille was interested or somebody like that, I would hope that there would be a path to Patrick, and the Islanders would not stand in his way. It's been well reported that he's under contract for a couple more years, gets the Islanders out from under a contract, gives the new leadership the opportunity to pick their own person. So it could be wins on all sides. But once again, until we know who the leadership is, we also can say that Patrick won't return to the Islanders as coach as well.
So that's my next question, though, Jimmy. Sorry to cut you off, because Chris is on a roll there, and I listen to everything he says. So you know most of the players. I know you do. You do. I know you do, and they trust you. Are they concerned?
I'm in my final year or two of everybody aging out.
I get it, but I know.
Every time a Matt Martin or a Kylo post, by the way, I'm not trying to pretend that I'm posting. One of those guys have those lineups for the handshake. I'm like, man, I'm just about done.
What are the players concerned? Are the players like, holy moly, they could go full rebuild on us again, and then what do we do?
The reason for concern would just be, and forgive me, it sounds like the PR guy, and also I'm coming to you live from 67-degree and sunny Long Island, an area Murph knows well. I was at Long Beach with my son today. We had some great pizza at Serrano's. This is a great place to live. And man, if you have NHL money, I would think it would be a really even more awesome place to live, right? Yeah. I can only dream. So I think the only concern would be maybe if you're in Anders Lee, for example, not one of the players who has a no move clause like Kulak, for example, has all these years left and a no move clause. I would like to hire his agent. I could see them being a little concerned that maybe things have changed. The other part of this, Pierre, too, is one moment doesn't enact radical change, but this is a medium team, right? What the kids would call a mid team, right? A mediocre team that this isn't one of those bad teams that gets the first pick overall, right? San Jose rebuilding, Buffalo forever rebuilding, Chicago still in a rebuild. This is kind of like the Lafreniere thing, where like a pretty good team with some good parts, Sorokin, Barzal, Horvat, notable couple of D as well. They have this first overall pick, so that could change could change the tone of what the new leadership does as well.
Got it.
I've been following your stuff, and it looks like Matthew Darche is very much in the mix as a potential GM there. What do you like about him, and what do you think he could do with this team?
So there isn't anybody, I would say, including of the obvious candidates that were first came up, Hollins and people like that. I'm not against anybody. My position has been I'd like to see these owners, Ledecky, Malkin, and John Collins, have a process, and may the best person win. And may the best leader win. I don't care about that this lovely young man from Long Island, James Higgins, is an Islander fan. I think that's great, but I want the leader who's going to pick the best hockey player, period. If that happens to be Higgins, that's awesome. Nobody would celebrate that more than me. So I'm not against anybody. I'm not really for anybody. I am, forgive me for being so corny about this, but I'm trusting these three successful businessmen to have their process and hire the best people. As for Matthew Darche, what I do like about it is, I like fresh blood. I like fresh vision. This has nothing to do with Mr. Lamoriello whatsoever. He just happens to have been his predecessor. But I do like the Islanders. If the idea, and it's possible that this could have been either a blessing or a circumstance that they are thinking more about a Darche type, because Ken Holland has waffled. It's very clear that he has some other opportunities. And now this is the part I'll just give a little bit of a guess on, is that I think Ken Holland wants things exactly a certain way, with people like Ryan Martin joining him and things like that. And maybe he's not thinking that works for him right now. So while that's going on, if that has kicked open the door for a Darche, for some of the other assistant general managers around this league, including with some teams that might be still playing right now. And that is exciting to me. I like that idea. But what I want to, what I'll never know, what we'll never know, is what does Darsh go in there with his vision for this team? And most importantly, I don't mean to put down this position. This is a hugely important hire, but what I'm much more interested in, and this I think comes from my time working around a hockey club for a couple of years, is I want to know who are his 3 assistant general managers, who's his cap guy, who's going to be his draft.
I saw you say that.
Yeah, that's not going to be the headline, but as the weeks go on and those people are added, and perhaps some good people that currently the Islanders could lose their jobs, or there's some changes, they need to bulk up this directory. It's thin. It's been thin from Garth through Lou for very different reasons. So that's what I'm really interested in, is to see where that goes. So if Darsh has the opportunity, I believe, if he knocks it out of the park, to come up from, let's say, the 5th candidate for this job and to becoming the 1st.
Yep, I agree with that. Chris, I love too that it seems that they are intent on doing what you suggested earlier and bringing in, president of hockey operations, VP of hockey, whatever you want to call the title is, and having sort of that chain of command like we see in Montreal with Gorton and Hughes, and we see how well they've done. I think every team should be doing that. I just think that's the way to do it nowadays. And I think if you get that and you get 2 guys that are on the same page, I love too that you're pointing out, yes, you need to focus on down the ladder. And, Pierre's pointed out, they got to really bulk up Bridgeport there. They got to get that team going again there. So I'm glad that you're putting that out there, because I don't think fans really think about that enough. And even some media don't think about it enough. But if they can get a system, so to speak, I think they'd be in much better shape than they've been in.
I should have added that to the list, Jimmy. They got an AHL leader as well, and some changes there that I'm sure will happen. And I'll leave that at that. The thing about these now 2.5 weeks since the change has been made from Lou is that this continues to evolve. I can tell you that over the weekend, this past weekend, guys, there was a movement toward the idea that the Islanders were going to actually go back to just a combo president of hockey operations / general manager. And some of it gets to be semantics, right? Because you could do that, but if your number 2 is called, I'm making this up, right, executive vice president of player personnel, and it's a notable person in this league, then that's your number 2, right? So you have a 1 and 2. But there was, I will say, up until recently, there was some thought that if it was going to be a Ken Holland, for example, that he would have both those jobs. And then Ryan Martin, as an obvious example, of which, my understanding is that he would come with him and will, if Ken goes anywhere else as well. He'd have to be freed up from the Rangers, of course. Is that that person, then there would be a number 2 and a number 3 and a 4. So, it's funny. If you'd had me on Monday, I would have said, change in plans, guys. Now it's just 1. If it's a Darsh, perhaps it's a Darsh alongside a veteran as well.
Okay. Pierre?
Keep going, Jimmy. I'm listening.
All right. So when you look at this team right now that they have the number 1 pick, how much does that change the outlook going forward? Forget whoever becomes GM. I'm just saying in terms of looking at this roster right now, how much does that change where they were heading compared to before that happened?
It's a great question, and that's going to be a big one. You can't deny it, right? Instead of think about the difference here, right? Play along with me. If they wind up picking 10th, that's a player who's probably at least 2 years from the NHL, and I would say realistically maybe even 3 or 4 from producing, right? A forward 50 points, something like that, right? At least that. With the number 1. Necessarily rush. You're not going to have too high expectations in that first year, but that does move things a little more, especially when you're talking about a Misa or a Schaefer on D or anybody else that's available, Hagens, of course. So it does change things. I mean, we don't know the answers because we don't. I think we'll have a better idea. I know you guys will when they say, "Here's the Islanders' president of hockey operations." I think right away, guys like you will be like, "Oh, we know what he's going to do with that pick. We know what he's going to do with those older guys, those mid-30 guys. That things might move sooner rather than later. Or if it's somebody else, you might say, you know what, he might take a little bit of a run at it to see what they have here. So it's really wide open. Guys, is it, and if you don't mind, Jimmy, I'll ask Pierre first. Like, in your mind, forget geography. Is there a clear-cut number one pick for you? Pretend Team X has the first overall pick.
Yeah, Schaefer's number one.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. Can dominate the game defensively, can dominate the game offensively. Probably will use a little development time just to get stronger, as you know. But I think major potential to be a superstar player.
And the levels go, is it Schaefer and then like a half step to a Misa and another step to a Higgins and the
So
rest?
I saw Higgins live more than any of those players, just because he was playing against my son a lot and he was playing in Hockey East a lot. So I saw him, and he's a really good player. So he's not as good as Jeremy Roenick, I'm just telling you, but there are similarities. I had Jeremy at the same age in a hockey camp in Boston. I had him for 2 years. Kachuk was in that camp. Guerin was in that camp. LaChance was in that camp. Like a lot of elite players. I had them all at the same time. Higgins has some Roenick caliber qualities. He's just not as good. He's not as good as JR.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a lot. I'm a fan of the kid. Like, to do what he did as a 17/18-year-old in Division I college hockey. I know he played with Perreault and Leonard. I get it. But to do what he did is unbelievable. It says a lot about his character. Misa's a little better. Misa's just a little bit more refined. He's just a little better.
On this subject, I told you already what I thought I would want if I was the owner of the team. I'm not a scout, so I'm not going to pretend to be that. I could pretend to be an owner and what I want my hockey ops leader, how I want him to approach this. And then as for messaging, right, if you're a communications person, and I think most of the GMs wouldn't need a PR person to tell them this. But if I'm this Poho, let's call him, of the Islanders, the new leader of the Islanders, no matter what, I think you take a bucket of the 3 or 4 of them. You want to throw in a Frondell or something like that. And from the beginning, you just play that up. And you hit 2 marks. You talk about what a beautiful thing it is that we have this young man from Long Island, because this is different, right? We've had players from Long Island before, but not like this, right? And so you make a point of that, but you also make a point about the demon, about Schaefer, and you hit home that this dynasty of this franchise that we worked for started with Denny Puffin. Like, you want the rest of the NHL, you especially want Chicago, St. Louis, to be thinking that it's not a slam dunk. You're taking it forward, or you're taking the kid from Long Island. You want them, even though it might be obvious that he's the best player, you want people thinking that you're taking Schaefer. And then if you get absolutely bowled over, and I'm not talking about 2 second-round picks to go from first to third or something like that, then again, I defer to the hockey people to decide what those major incentives to go from 1 to 3 and take the Long Island kid, if that is worth it to you, because Schaefer could mean the world to a San Jose or a Chicago. Yeah,
Jimmy, before we let Chris go, because I respect his opinion a ton. This reminds me so much, Chris, the Tavares, Hedman, Duchesne draft. I was working it. Just going to tell you, I know for a fact, and I think you do too, there were people internally with the Islanders that said, we're going to take Duchesne first. And I remember telling that one person, if you do that, if you thought I was bad when you drafted Robert Nilsson ahead of Zach Parise, I'm going to nail you to the cross. You cannot take him.
Well, now I kind of wish I took Duchesne, so I could have, because I was the one sitting there and dealing with your Nielsen stuff. I would have actually liked to have seen my friends at the Islanders go through that while you were. Sorry to cut you off. It would have been worth it just for that.
But I'm serious. But this is what this reminds me of, because you got 3 players and they're all different. But that's what this reminds me of.
But so where was Hedman in your conversation, or you were just talking?
No, they told me it was between Duchesne and Tavares. Hedman wasn't in it. They weren't taking Hedman.
That's absolutely correct. And we don't need to get into like naming who does.
No, we don't have to talk about
it. But I will name two people, and regardless of how things turned out, like Garth Snow and Charles Wong were taking John Tavares. That I know.
Yeah, but that's awesome. And they made the right pick.
Yep.
They made the right pick.
Can I say on a separate subject, and then you can hang up on me?
Never hang up on you.
This thing that I see a lot, including in some cases probably by friends of yours, maybe even friends of mine, where guys years later say, I don't know if you know, but at the draft table, we really wanted to take that guy. I'm sorry. That stuff drives me crazy. Revisionist history. We all work for people. There's ultimate decision makers. And all of a sudden, like I know that, and listen, he had a tough go. But I know, I'll use one example. Bob Clark said that about Ron Hextall. I don't remember who it was exactly, but he started telling everybody, we wanted to take this guy instead of this guy. And like, what good does that do? And would Bob, for example, or let's say any other, that guy who tells that story when they go on shows like this, would they want that said about them for some of the guys that we know they missed on? You know, like, make the pick, live with the pick.
Yep.
That's great. And you were like that. And I just wanted you to know, I'll never forget that day in Nashville when Nielsen went ahead of Zach. And I had to call it the way it was.
I was wondering, you were on some riser thing.
I was.
You with TSN then, Pierre?
I was, and it was Bob Gordon and I said, the Islanders have one chance to get this right. I'm paraphrasing, but I'm pretty sure I'm pretty accurate on the words. And I said, there's only one player left in this draft in the first round that wants to be an Islander, and it's Zach Parise. And if they don't take him, they're making a major mistake.
And Murph, it was so bad that I knew it was coming. I knew the Pierre storm was coming, but we did the initial interviews, and I was still hearing Pierre's the draft party. We need to shut off the draft party. And it got so bad, and I was literally at the bottom of the risers going, Pierre, please.
And you know what? Kenta, Robert Nielsen's father, he's a friend. Like, he's somebody.
He would have picked Parise.
He would have taken Zach. I'm telling you, he would have. It was unbelievable. Oh my gosh, I felt so bad. And this is inside baseball, but Chris will appreciate this. One of the legendary Islander scouts who was there from the beginning, and he was legendary, former player. I don't want to say names. He grabbed me the next day and he goes, did you really have to be that hard? And I said, nope, I didn't. And I apologize. I felt really bad because that gentleman approached me.
And I'm only going to guess, and you just keep a straight face. But if that was a gentleman and it was Robert Nielsen and it was a player who in his 5-year NHL career won 4 Stanley Cups, went to the finals, and then went back to Europe, my guess is that was the beautiful man named Anders Kallard. But Pierre does not have. And he was one of the greats. He had a great career. His daughter is an Olympic speed skater, I want to say, or Olympian of some sorts. Anyway, as always, I go on too long with you guys.
No, you do not. We love having you on.
It's good stuff.
We love it.
I love it.
I have no idea.
You're so good at this. You're so good at this. You're so good at this.
And our viewers are enjoying it too, so I appreciate it, Chris. Listen. Keep going. Keep providing all the insight you're doing. We'll have you again down the line when something happens. All right.
I'm coming to your neck of the woods for a wedding soon. I'm texting you before I get there.
That'd be awesome. Let's get out. Right.
We will. We will.
That was so off script. I have no idea what your great producer is going to do for clips for this. I can't wait. Just make sure I don't look too dumb. Okay.
Jane is great at identifying. Yep.
You.
All right.
Thank
Have
you.
a good one, Chris. Chris Botta joined
you.
us here on the eye test, and we know Shane will identify the right clips as he always does. That was some good stuff, though. I'm thinking as you're telling that story, I'm trying to think back to that draft, and I totally forgot about
it. Was the 03 draft.
Yeah.
And, I had some draft moments over, I don't even know how many drafts I did that I've been involved with the draft since 89, 90. That's probably as angry as I ever was. I couldn't believe it. I was
so weird, Pierre. So I'm driving before the show here. I'm driving back, on the road, and I'm at a light, and I look over. This is so funny that Zach Parise came up, and I was going to tell you this earlier. And a guy had a North Dakota Zach Parise jersey on. How random is that? And then you tell this story. I'm like, what's going on here?
So Zach's dad, before he passed, I spent some fair number of days together. Really good JP, great hockey guy.
Yep.
Started the program at Shattuck St. Mary's. He really did.
Okay.
Like, he doesn't get nearly enough credit for that. And he said, we were in Stockholm actually together. We were in Stockholm hanging out and watching hockey and hanging out. And he said, hey, I got to talk to you, Pierre. We went in a corner, just the two of us, kind of like when we were at Harry Lemon in Dublin.
Yep.
And so we were just hanging out in a corner. And he said, how are you so sure on Zach? So I said, I'll tell you how I was so sure on Zach. I watched him probably 50 times over a 2-year period, and he had an engine that never stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And so if he's doing that, then wait till he gets paid to do it.
Yeah.
And wait till he's with guys that actually can keep up to him.
Yep.
And so I was sure, and I had seen, and again, no, Robert, this isn't Robert Nilsson's fault, by the way.
No.
He was never rude to me. He was never a bad person to me. His father treated me amazing all the years I used to see his father, Kent, over in Helsinki or in Stockholm or in Timrå, wherever I'd see him. I'd see him in all these different cities in Europe. And all I'm saying is, like, you could tell there was no comparison. And then Lou actually made a trade. Lou is a general manager in Jersey. He traded down or up. He traded up to get the pick for Zach.
Wow.
Yeah.
He was such an intelligent player too, Pierre.
Oh my gosh, man. Like, Jimmy,
the way you could see the game.
Jimmy, one of my prize. I've got so many.
I'm
so fortunate, like beautiful possessions, signed sticks, pucks, whatever, from players I coach, their jersey, whatever. My son Ryan came to a game with me at Madison Square Garden, and Zach was playing, and he saw Ryan, and he knew Ryan was getting recruited by Shattuck St. Mary's. Tom Ward was recruiting my son.
Okay.
So Zach was trying to get Ryan to go to Shattuck. So I was staying right out of it. And Zach comes up to me, he says, hey, I got a gift for Ryan, but is he allowed to have it in the stands? I go, I don't buy tickets. He stands in the Zamboni door. I'm working. He's going to stand in the – and so I'm going to give him something. Tell him to come here. So I called Ryan in, and we're right outside the Devils dressing room at MSG. And he gave him a signed stick, like a game stick before the game. Like, we still have it. And Ryan's like so proud of it. Now, Ryan was a right-hand shot. Zach's a lefty, but he's like, Dad, what an awesome curve. What an awesome – like, you know what I mean? You remember certain moments like that.
That's great. Good stuff there. Good stuff. All right, Pierre, we will get into it, I'm sure, in the questions here, but just a quick reaction to last night. If anything stood out to you about either game that you want to talk about, we'll get right to the questions.
Winnipeg, the fans were really good. They tried. You can just see Dallas has a little more. Obviously, Mikko Rantanen's a huge, gigantic story this playoff season, right? Hat trick last night. So Winnipeg has no wiggle room. They got to win tomorrow night.
Yeah, exactly.
They have to. They have no choice.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Washington, Carolina tonight, but I'll talk about the early game first. Toronto still hasn't played an A game yet. They've been B plus. That's where they've kind of been through the first 2 games. Florida was pretty good last night. I thought Florida was really good last night.
Florida's game to win.
And I thought Florida, the last 35 minutes of game 1, they were actually better than Toronto too.
Yep.
So they've dominated territorially. They got no wiggle room either now. Florida, they're in trouble. I know you're never in trouble till you lose at home, but you know that Toronto's going to play an A game here, Jimmy. Yeah. They're not just going to play B plus or B games. They're going to play an A plus game. Yeah. And when they do, I don't know if Florida has the firepower to keep up with them. I don't know.
I'll tell you one thing that I noticed, and we've been talking about how Toronto all season, how we thought they'd be more ready for the playoffs, ready for the moment. When Florida ties the game in a third there, and then they come right back 17 seconds later.
Shot.
That was the moment right there. I said, this is a different team. This is everything.
It could be a team of destiny. The great point by you, Jimmy. That's a great point. Really good.
I was like,
point.
this is, you don't see this in the past with Toronto teams. This is different. So it was good stuff. All right, let's get to our sponsors, TCS Customs and Logistics. Unlock the full potential of your shipping operation with TCS Customs and Logistics. From around the corner to around the world, flatbeds to air freight, customs clearance to drawback consulting. TCS is a one-stop shop for all things transport, moving pieces and delivering a peace of mind. For no obligation customs or freight quote, contact sickpodcast@shiptcs.com. Again, that is sickpodcast@shiptcs.com. And of course, our wonderful friends over at Betway, where you can still go all the way. And if you are a new member, you just sign up a new account there, right with that QR code in front of you if you're watching, or in the details section at the website. You can get up to $200 if your first bet loses. Again, it's only available for new members, so sign up and redeem your welcome offer. The offer is not available in Ontario right now. Terms and conditions apply. You must be 18 plus and always play responsibly. Let's go to the sick picks of the night.
It's time for Sick Picks, brought to you by Betway.
All right, we're going to start with the first game there. Like we said, this is pretty much a must-win for the Washington Capitals. I think they come out pretty motivated, a much different team. Very interested to see how Carberry adjusts to everything we were talking about in game one. I do think they have a great first period. I'm not saying they're going to win, but I do think they come out strong in the first period. And that's why I've got them scoring the first goal of the game. You can get that at plus 165 value right now. Also, that would mean if they're getting the first goal of the game, then they're scoring over 0.5 goals in the first period. So that is at minus 125 value. So get the double whammy there. And the other thing is another prop. I did all right with my prop last night in the Toronto game. With Max Pacioretty, who, by the way, is on fire. Keep riding him if you can. The prop I have in this one, though, because I think the Capitals are going to come out firing on all cylinders, and I think they're going to bombard Freddie Anderson with a lot of shots. You can get Anderson over 22.5 saves. I think that he might lose, but I think he's going to face so many shots. I think the Capitals bring it well over 25 tonight. So I think he ends up getting over 25.5 shots. You can get that at minus 110. And then in the second game, I'm feeling a low-scoring game. I know people look at these two teams and they think high-scoring, but I feel like it's going to be another low-scoring game. I don't know who's going to win, but I like the under 6.5 at minus 108 value. All right, let's get to the Q&A. Randy Workman, what'd you think of that embellishment call, Randy? I knew that was coming. Pierre, I mean, I hate complaining about officiating, but
that was bad.
That was bad. There's no way around it.
That was really bad.
There's no way around it. Randy, it was bad. I don't know what else to say. I don't want to beat on a dead horse because
it's over. That was bad.
Yeah. I think everyone knows that. All right, next question. Joseph Cohen, what are your thoughts on the resurgence of John Klingberg? These playoffs, he's been solid for the Oil and made a great breakout pass to set up the game.
He sure did. Joseph, you're absolutely right. So I just want to say one thing. Minnesota had John Klingberg, and the late Ray Shero talked to Billy Guerin about him and said, trust me on this. He will help us. He's an injured guy. I think he's healthy now, and Johnny can make a difference there. And you know, when you look at it again, you look at the players that are not there anymore. You know, Cody Cece's playing in Dallas. You know, they lost a lot of guys in the back end. Edmonton did. So no, I think that he's made a difference. He's made a big difference.
All right. What's the next question? Alex Ivnowski, what's your thoughts on Porter Martone? We haven't talked about that, Pierre.
He's a big scoring forward, a winger, center. Depends on what your flavor of the month is. I wish he skated a little better, but the pace will get better as he gets more mature. But there's huge offensive upside. Huge upside.
Next question. What do we got here? Brad K. What's up, Brad? With teams that have multiple first-round draft picks, like the Habs with 16 and 17, could you see them bundling them to trade them up?
Yes.
Yep. Especially this draft.
Or to get a second center.
Yep. teams are going to utilize.
Yes, the answer is yes, 100%.
I think there'll be a lot of trading going on draft day. All right, next question. Gerbhouse, what are your predictions of where Fowler ends up for next season or most of it? Apologies, just another crazy Habs fan who's excited about the future while trying to keep the patience in check. No need to apologize. I would be excited too if I was a Habs fan. And I think Pierre has made it very clear what he thinks of Mr. Fowler.
Yeah, no, I think he needs just a little more time in the American League. If they go all the way to the final, like he's got a big showdown coming up with Devon Levi. That's not going to be easy. And Rochester's a very mature, good team.
Yep.
So that's going to be a big test for Pascal Vincent, for Jacob Fowler, for the entire Laval Rocket team. I'm excited to watch that. Doesn't start till next week, but that's okay. I expect he's going to be an impact player for a long time for Montreal. I just don't know if it's going to be at the start of next year. I'd be surprised, Jimmy. I'd be surprised.
All right, next question. Bill Van Vagel, realistically, will any Canadian cities get an expansion team, i.e. Quebec City, Hamilton, or does the NHL deem we have enough yet? They try to use reclamation cities that get mentioned often, like Atlanta or KC. Excuse me, Bill. I don't think it's that they don't want to put a team in Quebec. It's just they don't, and the facts kind of prove it, that the infrastructure won't hold it there. That's the problem. I mean, it's not I think there's this, Pierre, correct me if I'm wrong. I think there's kind of a misconstrued narrative out there that the NHL doesn't like Canadian teams or doesn't want them up.
That's not true at all.
Furthest thing from the truth.
That's not true. That's not true.
You can tell them about Bettman. I know what you want to talk about.
I'm going to tell you exactly. Thank you, Jimmy.
Yep.
So I can tell you guys right now, very comfortably, that had it not been for Gary Bettman and the Canadian Assistance Program, there would have been a lot of teams not in Canada right now, number one. And if they were in Canada, they'd be bleeding money like you can't believe. That's number one. Number two, when the Montreal Canadiens were for sale, okay, when the Gillette family bought them from Colorado, Denver, Colorado, there wasn't one Canadian billionaire. There was not one person from the province of Quebec that made a bid for the Montreal Canadiens. That's why the league went out and recruited George Gillette to buy the team. Think about that for a second.
It's amazing.
So Gary Bettman did a lot of stuff to help Canadian teams. Yeah. And I get people like to boo authority figures. I get it. And has Commissioner Bettman been right on everything? No, he has not. No, he has not. But to say that he's against Canadian teams is really wrong.
No.
And I can tell you, from having been on the board of governors, from having sat with him in many different private situations, that is not true. Whoever spread that on him, that was not appropriate.
Pierre, you don't have to answer this if you don't feel comfortable, but if you do, I'd be interested in your insight. Yep. Do you think if it had been a different owner or owners back, I forget when it was like what, early 2000s, mid 2000s, pushing for the team in Hamilton?
No.
You don't think it would happen? So it wasn't going to happen either way.
But this doesn't get talked about enough.
Okay.
The Buffalo Sabres own territorial rights of Hamilton.
Right.
Toronto Maple Leafs own territorial rights. So when New Jersey moved from Colorado to New Jersey for a long time, and I'm talking about a couple decades, they were paying territorial fees to the New York Islanders, the New York Rangers, and the Philadelphia Flyers.
Wow.
To three.
So they didn't want to have that situation.
They didn't want to have that situation again.
Okay. All right, next question. Dave Abbott, with assumed pressure from ownership, what changes do you think the New York Rangers need to consider to get back to where they were a couple of years ago? I don't see a rebuild. Thoughts, Dave? 100% right. I don't see a rebuild either. I think they need to get guys that are, see, I don't know how to say this without sounding a little too harsh. They all need to get on the same page. They need to get guys that are buying into whatever Mike Sullivan's selling. If I'm going to put it that way.
So my partner just nailed it. So interference goes away. If you're the manager, you manage. If you're the owner, you own. If you're the coach, you coach. Stay in your lane.
Yep.
Sullivan was brought there to coach. He's the highest paid coach in the National Hockey League. Don't tell him what to do.
No.
Let him coach.
Yep. exactly. All right, next question. P, stupid question, but it's never a stupid question, P. But could you explain how contracts are made up? Example, final year of Zadorov's contract says 3.6, but the cap hit is still 5, and there's no bonuses. I see this a lot, and I don't get it. That's a great question, P. Go ahead.
Just follow how the money's laid out. So let's just say Jimmy signs a 5-year deal for, I don't know, sake of argument, $6 million a year. So it's $30 million. Some of that could be weighted at the beginning of the contract, and other parts it'll shrink as it goes longer. So it still becomes an AAV question. And so that's where it becomes $5 million. So he's probably front loaded. Mm-hmm. So if you look at it, Jimmy, you probably have it in front of you. What are his first 3 years there?
One sec.
Just look it up, because then you'll see his last 3 years, where he's at. So you have to look at where the last 3 years accumulated. It has to add up to whatever the number is. So what are his first 3 years?
In terms of the base or the cap hit?
What's the base?
The base. Okay. So it goes, first year was 2, second year is 3.1, third year is 4.5. Then it goes back down to 4, down to 3.2, and then up to 3.6.
Yeah. So what happens is they're trying to balance so that they can have some cap room available. So the peak year is 4. That was in year 3, I think,
yep,
right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good contract. That's not outrageous. Right. That's a solid, reliable contract. So the comparable I would use would be Ian Cole. So Ian Cole had the last few years have been playing on 1-year deals, probably $3 million a year, a little bit more. Gotcha. So you give Zadorov, rather than give him a bonus, in year 3, he goes up to 4. Okay. So that's kind of like the way they do it. Yeah, no, that's smart. It's a great question.
Yep.
But that's just so I hope they understood that. Was I clear enough?
Yep.
It all has to. So let's say it's 5 years times 6. It all has to add up to 30 million.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Just so
they choose the route to get there. All right. Next question. Randy Workman, is Schaefer an NHLer next season?
Depends how strong he is, Randy. Like, they'll find out if the Islanders, let's say the Islanders trade the pick, I don't know, and he goes to San Jose. I don't think they'll do that, but let's say they did do that. This is a hypothetical.
Yeah.
Don't print that. Then I don't know, but he's got to get stronger. Like, he only played 18 games this year, I think.
Yeah. It depends to where he lands, right? Like you're saying, Pierre. I mean, how's that roster he's going into, right? Are they able to?
Well, on defense, if he goes to the Islanders on defense, he's okay,
right? Because they can.
If he goes to San Jose, he's not okay.
No, yeah, exactly.
So
all right, next question. Juice _031-017. Can Coach Q lead the Ducks to the playoffs this coming season? I think so. I think some of it's up to Pat Verbeek too. What does he do in the offseason? But in terms of the coaching, it can get them there.
So, Juice, here's what I know for sure, because I did a lot of research on this. They were 10 points behind Vancouver. They were 16 points behind Calgary. So they're 16. That's 8 wins, give or take. Let's just use wins rather than overtime losses or ties or shootout losses. So can they do that? The answer is yes, they can, because their roster's maturing. It's going to come down to them staying healthy, but I think they can be a playoff team next year. I believe they really can be. And that's not a shot at Greg Cronin. It's just the roster's a year older.
Yep.
And so these guys got a real good taste the last 15 to 20 games of the year in Anaheim.
Oh, yeah.
How to compete down the stretch. They were good. They were good down the stretch.
Hockey. Yeah.
They really were. So I do think they can make the playoffs next year.
All right, next question. Bill Van Vagel, is Max Pacioretty playing well enough to get a guaranteed off-season contract this summer? That's a good question.
I don't even know if he wants to play anymore after this. If they win the Cup, who knows?
Exactly.
He could pull a Mark Recchi and walk away.
Yep, and that's what I would do if I was him.
Let's see how it plays out. But Max has done well the last 3 games.
He really has.
The last game of the Ottawa series, the first game of this series, and the second game of this series have been great. But I would never judge a player in 3 games. And if you're going to do that, you're going to be making a big mistake. Let's see where Max is at the end of the playoffs.
All right. Next question. FFFF. I just saw the interview Jeff Gorton gave a couple days ago. To me, he seemed to be hinting that there will be a lot of offer sheets this summer. Do you guys see that? He did kind of hint at that, Pierre.
Yeah, no, he's not the only guy doing that, by the way.
Yeah, no.
Fitzy's saying that in New Jersey. I think There will be offer sheets.
But here's what I'll say, Pierre. I think that the fact that all these guys are hinting it means that they're prepared for it. So don't expect it to go as easy as it did for St. Louis.
I don't think people want to be embarrassed like Edmonton was.
Exactly. And that's definitely in the back of their mind for sure. All right. Next question. Chris TV question with McGuire, Kuvanen, Tomasino, Pickering, Brunicki, Blomqvist. Do the Penguins have enough good prospects to accelerate the rebuild?
Not right now.
No. And I don't think
Not
they
right
want.
now.
I don't think they want to. I think you want to take your time with this.
Not
one.
right
You do it
now.
right.
They're gonna be pedestrian and take their time and do it right.
Mhm.
The big slap in their face, because it was a slap in their face. Wheeling went down in the first round. Wilkes-Barre went down in the first round, and for 3 straight years, the Penguins missed the playoffs.
Yeah.
That they were counting on their American League team and their East Coast Hockey League team to play playoff games to speed up a little of that development. That did not happen. So I would say no.
All right. Next question. Frank, what do you think of Logan Mailloux play so far for Laval? Do you see him making the Habs next year? Frank, I'll just answer quick. Love it and yes.
You love it, and yes, there you go. We're
All
good,
right.
Frank. Thank you.
Right to the point. All right. Next question. Randy Workman, if the Leafs could keep one of two.
Come on, Randy.
Matthew Nizer, Marner, who do they keep? Ooh. I think
Are you going to try to play that game? I'm just going to say I'm not answering that question. Come
I'm not
on.
answering your question. You know what? I don't think that's going to be the choice.
That's not the choice.
I think I still believe they're going to keep both. I might be nuts, but we'll see.
No, they're not going to have a choice. Marner either decides to stay or go. That's not going to be their choice. It's going to be Marner's.
Exactly.
In terms of Nyes, he's on entry level. Like, can everybody calm down here? Like, why are we speeding up entry level players?
That's a great point, Pierre.
Why are people doing that? Like, I used to have this fight all the time with some attorneys that used to work with us. I mean, like, what are you doing? Like, why are we speeding up the process on entry level guys?
You know,
the agents have crushed the teams. And I say that out of respect to the agents.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They've crushed the teams. Full marks. Alan Walsh, Donnie Meehan, Patrick Morris, Pat Brisson. They've crushed.
Yep.
They've crushed it. They've crushed them.
They have. And I'm with you. Enough of rushing it here. I don't know how do you slow it down though, Pierre? Like how
you get some nasty negotiators to say good luck to you. You don't have arb rights and you don't have a chance to be an RFA yet. So buckle up. Do you like yodeling in Switzerland? Like Harry Sinden said to Joey Juno? I hope he knows how to yodel because he'd be playing in Switzerland.
One of the best lines ever. All right, next question. Real Deal Prime. With Eric Stahl joining the Sabres front office as a special advisor to GM Kevin Adams, my heart fills with pride knowing Buffalo is bringing in a smart, experienced hockey mind. How do you see it? Real Deal Prime. I like it too, but just keep in mind that Eric doesn't have any experience in this field yet. He's going to be learning on the job, but it can't hurt. It can't hurt.
And they're friends from winning the Stanley Cup in Carolina in 2006. I mean, there's a lot there. Stalzy played a little bit for Buffalo. I'm full of admiration for all the Stalls. So I don't think it's a bad hire. What Jimmy said, there's no experience there. It's one thing to play rotisserie league, and there's another thing to actually do it.
And Pierre, and good on them that they've been stating it. I think it was Pagula said it already. They are interested in bringing in a president of hockey ops or somebody in between now, and that's a change of philosophy for them.
How many years do they have to lose before they figure this out? 14 years without playoffs? Boy, oh boy. There's a Mensa meeting going on there.
Yeah, the light bulb has finally gone off. All right, next question. What do we got? Bill Van Vagel, has dump and chase hockey gone out of vogue? I am always yelling at the TV for teams to dump it in, but players feel the need to keep the possession and yet lose it in the zone entry more times than I would like. Bill, I'm with you.
Hello, analytics.
Yep. There you go, Bill. All right, next question. Randy Workman. What's up, Randy? Badger was a hero. Jimmy and Pierre, did he have anything to do with the Mullen trade to Calgary?
I was sitting right next to him. We were on the floor in Vancouver in the football stadium. And Badger, I was really bullish on one player whose name was Marty Brodeur. He went 20th overall in that draft. but I thought if we package our second round pick and something else, might be able to sneak up there. I thought he'd go in the first 25, Brodeur. And Badger looked at Craig and said, we don't need a goalie. We got Tommy Barrasso. We got Frank Pietrangelo. We got Wendell Young. We don't need a goalie. And we had a guy that we signed out of Western Ontario, Rob Dobson, who ended up being a good pro, really good pro, and a good man. So, yeah, Badger's the one that said, we're taking Joey Mullen. Wow. I need guys that have Stanley Cup rings coming in this dressing room. And he was right. Kevin could tell you. Kevin Stevens, he'll tell you, Murph.
All right.
Yeah, no. Joey was great, and that was a Badgers call all the way. All the way.
Wish I could have met him. All right, next question. Dave Abbott, Jimmy and Pierre, follow-up question. If the Ducks make the playoffs, who drops out?
I think there's going to be some major surprises in the West. What about LA? What's going to happen in LA?
Yeah. There's too much up in the air right now, but yeah, that would have been my first answer there for sure.
You know what? I mean, I don't know what's going to happen in Edmonton. What happens if Edmonton loses in this round?
Yep. Yeah, but I think LA. If you had to pick one right now, I'd say LA.
Yeah.
All right, next question. Bill Van Vagel, do you think Claude Julien gets another head coaching job? With his work in St. Louis this year, would he be seen as favorable, or is he seen as yesterday's news and teams need a new sexy hiring?
I wouldn't consider him to be yesterday's news, but I would tell you this: I don't think he's in the top 5 for other jobs. I just don't think so. Unfortunately, I just don't see it. We're getting all these reports now that David Carl had major interviews in Chicago and a 2-week courtship with Anaheim. Mm-hmm. That's just one coach that we know of that had 2 different, and he probably had more than that. And so he's already jumped Claude. Joel Quenneville jumped Claude. Rick Tocchet's jumped Claude.
Yeah.
So, and now I'm hearing stories, and Jimmy knows, I just don't want to say names. They're assistant coaches that they're waiting on that are coaching in the playoffs still. So I think he's been jumped. That's all.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they're right. Doesn't mean they're right at all. But no, he's been jumped.
All right. Next question. Gabriel Lamb, where do you think Tocchet will go? Boston, Pittsburgh, or Seattle, or stay on TV? I think
the TV thing is kind of a short-term gig for him.
Yeah.
Just to have fun with his fellow friends down in Atlanta. I hope Pittsburgh, but I don't know that. I don't. I talked about it in an interview I did in Pittsburgh for the local newspaper there last week. I think, Jimmy, you remember, I think it was last week I did it. I hope it's Pittsburgh, but I don't know. And that's only just my Pittsburgh roots speaking out on that. I'm a huge fan of Rick, big fan.
Yep. All right, next question. Alex Ivanowski, is Mike Babcock officially done in the NHL as a head coaching candidate? Makes me sad. As a fan, I learned so much about hockey when you and him had your in-game interviews. He felt like a teacher of hockey.
He was the gold standard for interviews. We showed them I didn't show them, but NBC showed them at so many different forums for how to do interviews with people like Mike. Mike was the gold standard. I know that Joel Quenneville copied him a lot. So, yeah, it's sad. Mike made some mistakes. It breaks my heart. I had a lot of magical moments with Mike at games. You know, I can tell you, Jimmy, at the Olympics in 2010, the Olympics in 2014, the chase for the cup for him in 2008, the chase for the cup in 2003 when he was in Anaheim, the chase for the cup in 2009.
That's right.
I had a lot of magical moments with Mike, and I have a ton of respect for Mike. I don't agree with everything that he did, and I don't agree with everything he did to his players, but I got a ton of respect for Mike.
All right, next question. Bill Van Vagel, what does Canada have to do to increase the number of top-end goalie prospects? It has been a while since the Canadian goalie pipeline has been healthy and abundant. Is it coaching, recruiting kids?
It's costs of playing the position. I think it's a little bit of coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's as sexy as it used to be. When Patrick Waugh and Marty Brodeur were doing it, or Jose Theodore were doing it, goalies were legitimate candidates to be, MVP guys in the league. It's kind of fallen back a little bit. Now I know they're pushing for Hellebuck to be that guy. I don't think he'll get the MVP this year, but I think there's a few things. It's a few things. And I think costs of playing the position.
Cost is huge. All right, next question. Dave Abbott, Jimmy and Pierre, with the draft not as deep as in the past, can you comment on whether that this could lead to teams trading draft positions, which could indirectly lead to more player trades? Yes and yes. Yep.
Yes and yes. Jimmy nailed that. Yes.
All right, next question. Juice_031017. How big is it for Hockey Canada adding Jordan Binnington, Philip Deneau, and Braden Chen ahead of the World Championships?
Wait a second. What about that guy named Crosby and that guy named McKinnon and that guy named Fleury? What are you kidding me? If they don't win this year, there should be an investigation about what they did the night before the gold medal game.
Yeah, they're stacked. All right, next question. Big Bill, Jimmy and Pierre, I don't know if you've covered this already. Do you think Taves would be a good fit for a 2C in Montreal? Prior captain, multi-Stanley Cup winner, low risk, and a tie over for Hage. I brought his name up last week, and Pierre thinks it would be a good signing. I don't necessarily think he's the 2C. I think you could still bring him in, and he fits in a different role. I think he'd be great for those young players, but I can't see him being the 2C, Pierre.
No. I do think he'd be a good fit, though.
Yeah, I think he'd be a great fit. We talk about mentorship and all that. I mean, there you go.
He'd be a really good fit. I just don't know about the 2C thing.
Yeah, exactly. All right, next question. Or are we done? We are done. That is it.
I hate it when you say that.
I know.
I love our questions.
I know. They're great. We appreciate all your
questions. How about
questions.
Chris Botta? Thank you to Chris. He was great.
He said to thank you as well. Thank you to Chris Botta. Thanks to Shane working the boards. Thanks to all of you for listening and watching and for your great questions. And again, some of you said you felt like your questions are stupid. Your questions are
never.
After you even take time to ask them, right there, it makes it a good
stupid. Jimmy and I talk about this. Like, I'll be out working out. Jimmy will be sitting on his butt in his house, and and I'm like, Jimmy, I'm working out. I'll call you later, Jimmy. But we talk about how much we enjoy the questions.
Yeah.
Like we really do. It's awesome. We're so grateful. Thank you.
Yep. We love it. We love it. Enjoy the hockey tonight, and we will talk to you tomorrow here in the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.